Good morning, everybody. Hey, thank you for joining me for a special Saturday morning edition. And want to give you an update on California Dream for All, specifically what happened in the board meeting that was held just 2 days ago. So this morning, I really want to dive right in, make this super succinct. I'm going to review my notes and kind of share with you what I learned, remind you of some things that we picked up, answer questions, remind you of things I already knew, talk about new things that I learned during that board meeting, and also answer any questions that you may have. So if you have questions right now, feel free to post them into comments wherever you're watching. But let me just dive in. For those of you who don't know what Dream for All is, a simple overview. It is a down payment assistance program that is going to provide up to 20% of the purchase price of the home. That is going to be a loan from the state of California, and you will pay back not only the money you borrowed, but you'll pay back an equal percentage of the appreciation in your home. So if you got 20% from the state, then you're paying them back 20% of what the house goes up in value, which is pretty fair. If you really look at it, if you had a friend who said, hey, I'll pay for 20% of the price of your house and you don't have to make any payments, I just want to get 20%, my equal share of what the house has gone up, I think that's more than fair. So it's a great program. Really, really high demand, way more demand than the number of people they can serve. So let's dive into kind of some of the details of what I learned during the webinar. First of all, just as a refresh, phase one, they gave us some recaps of numbers. They said it was $300 million that was ultimately helped 2,200 people. And they did give some statistics. They said that 50% of the buyers were people of color, that 22% of the buyers who used the first generation, the first version, was earning under 80% of the area median income, and that over 50% were attested to being first generation home buyers. Now, I don't know, I guess what they're trying to say is, look, half the people that did it the first time were first generation home buyers. So there's a lot of need for first generation home buyers. Maybe that's kind of what they were alluding to. What they made clear is, hey, phase two coming out this year, it is going to be, marketing is going to start in January. The portal is going to open up in March, and it's going to close in April. And what they're going to do is they're going to have you get pre-approved by a lender. You, as the borrower, submit your registration into the portal, but you also have to submit your pre-approval, and it looks like you're going to have to submit your paperwork, your documentation as well. And then they're going to confirm your eligibility, and then they're going to put you into the random queue. Okay. Now, they made it clear that they are going to be, how do they say this? They're going to be programming that random selection process so that the demographics of the people who submitted applications matches the demographics of the people that are selected on the other side. Now, I haven't digested that long enough to figure out if that is truly random or not. Like, in my opinion, first of all, if it's truly random, then it's just, hey, we're going to put all the names in the hat and we're going to randomly pick one out. But I guess they're afraid of being, blamed for discrimination, being said, hey, you only picked a certain people of certain income brackets or certain demographics. And so what they essentially implied is if 30% of the people that submit a registration, make under 80% of the area median income, then 30% of the people selected need to make under 80% of the area median income. So it's, I don't know. I guess if you're in a more popular bucket, is that a good thing or a bad thing? I'm not sure. I haven't digested it, but it certainly didn't sound very random to me. Maybe it's a good thing. It probably is a good thing, but it certainly wasn't something that I expected. So anyway, everybody's going to put their name in the hat. They're going to be selecting not only based on the demographics of matching the people who submitted a request, but more importantly, they're very, very much making it geographically based. As an example, Los Angeles County, or not county, but Los Angeles region represents, what did they say, 23% of the state's population. So Los Angeles is going to get 23% of the money. So that means that, for example, in the Central Valley, Sacramento area, we got a greater portion of the money than we had of the population. But I think the simple reason is because there's more homes here that people can afford than there are in Los Angeles or in the Bay Area. And so they're trying to turn this around and say, well, we have to serve our communities where they live, but they can't live there and buy there because they can't afford it, especially because they're lowering the cap on the income. So let's put this together. Basically, what they're saying is, and I'm gonna use San Francisco Bay Area as an example. They are making it clear, hey, whatever percentage of the state's population is in the San Francisco Bay Area, they get that same percentage of the reservations. Now, if there aren't enough people in the Bay Area that apply, they're not going to give the money to somebody in a different market. What they're going to do is they're going to increase the limit on income to allow more people in the Bay Area to be able to apply. So they're basically going to make sure that they get the geographic coverage they're looking for, and they're going to tweak the guidelines. They call this the uptake. What is the uptake within that particular market? And they're going to tweak the guidelines to say, oh, well, let's expand the rules then, because clearly people in the Bay Area making only 140%, I think it's 140% of the area median income. I'll have that somewhere here. Anyway, 120%. So they're going to 120% of the area median income. And if not enough people in the Bay Area apply, then 100% of the people who applied will get accepted and will get a reservation. And then they're going to tweak the rules to allow more people to apply. Okay. Here's the second thing about the geography. It matters where you live when you apply, but you can buy anywhere in the state that your income meets the guidelines. So let me give you an example. Let's pretend, and I don't have the exact numbers, but let's pretend the limit in the Bay Area is you can't make more than $180,000 a year. So you make $130,000. You live in the Bay Area, you're allowed to apply, and you have a better chance of getting selected because fewer people in the Bay Area are going to apply for this program. Now, you only make $130,000, and you're like, there's nothing I can buy in the Bay Area at $130,000. But they'll let you buy anywhere in the state as long as the income limit where you're buying is within what your income is. So if you make 130, in the Bay Area, the limit's 180, boom, you're eligible. Now you say, I want to buy it in Fresno. Well, the income limit in Fresno, I'm totally making this up. The income limit in Fresno is 120. You can't buy in Fresno. Even though you got your golden ticket and it says, hey, I qualify, I'm eligible, and you can use that anywhere in the state, you cannot use it in an area where you make more than that area's maximum income. So you can't buy in Fresno, but in Sacramento, maybe the maximum is 140. And so your 130 works. So your golden ticket, your selection out of the randomizer comes based on where you live, and then you will be able to buy anywhere in the state. You don't have to buy in the region that you live in. That's critical. That's critical to understand. I think it's great for people who are in the high cost, high concentration, high density areas that are willing to move out. I think this is going to help a lot of them to be able to buy a home in the Inland Empire. If you're in Los Angeles and you want to buy in the Inland Empire, you want to move to San Bernardino County, go for it. You're going to have a really good chance of getting a golden ticket selected because they're worried there aren't going to be enough people in Los Angeles area that are going to apply for this program. So very interesting dynamics. Last time it was just across the board, first come, first serve, whoever did it, got it. They are absolutely changing that completely, and they're adding the reservation system. They're adding the requirement that you are a first-generation homeowner. I'll explain in a minute more clearly what they said about that. And they are reducing the income limits. So they're saying, hey, you've got to make no more than 120% of the area median income, making it really, really specific on what geographies they are applying the money to. So these changes are pretty big. And I think that we're gonna see where it ends up. But a couple other things I want to talk about. Let's see here. I'm reading through my notes. They are capping the amount you can get. They didn't share what the cap was, but I think it's going to be somewhere maybe $150,000 is the most that you can get, which basically says, I think that's the number. So if you, for example, buy a $500,000 home, you can get 20% or $100,000. If you buy $1 million home, you can't get 20% because they're capping you at a certain dollar amount. So just understand they're adding a cap to stretch the money further in the high cost areas. They're not going to let them dig as deep into the amount of money that you're able to get. So they're doing that. They're limiting how much of your own money you can put into the down payment. So what they're really trying to do here is they're trying to say, look, we want to focus on lower income people who couldn't buy anyway because they didn't have enough money to buy, who are stuck with a generational wealth brick wall. I don't know, there's a better way to say that. But basically you're saying, look, generationally speaking, people who are homeowners, their kids become homeowners, their grandkids become homeowners. People who aren't homeowners, they're stuck in that generational path and they're trying to break that. Okay, you can agree or disagree, but the issue is the generational first-time home buyer is a legislative requirement. So there was a lot of people who I talked on Monday night when I was doing this presentation who said, John, I think that first generation thing's horrible. CalHAFA should get rid of it. And actually, a lot of people submitted emails, and I know a few of them are people who listen to me and sent in emails, and they addressed that. And they said, look, we don't have a choice. It's not CalHAFA's choice. It was from the state legislature. They've already passed it into law. So it is literally a law that we have to make this geared towards low income, and it's a law that we have to make this geared towards first generation. Now, it's not a law that they must do it to first generation. So for example, in a high cost area where there aren't a lot of applicants, maybe they'll raise the income limit and they'll get rid of the first generation requirement because they want to get the money out there into the hands of the people that need it. That's potentially something. They didn't say that's what they're going to do, but they have options. The law doesn't say it must be first generation. It says they must give priority or preference to first generation, but that is written into the law, so they don't have a choice. Now, here's how they wrote the first generation rules. And again, these are not the final rules. This is what the board is discussing and what the head of CalHAFA said the rule is going to be, which is at least one buyer on the home must never have been on title to a home ever before. So that answers a lot of questions when people ask, well, what if I just co-sign for somebody? Well, they said you must have never been on title to a home. Now, maybe that's not the final version that they write, but as of right now, that's the language they're using, is you must have never been on title to a home to be considered a first generation home buyer. The second thing is your parents cannot have owned a home in the last 10 years, cannot have had their name on title of a home anytime in the last 10 years. Now, what does that mean? A lot of people were asking questions. I saw somebody, I don't know if it was one of my viewers or not, but somebody wrote into the board and said, look, you know, I was raised by my mom. My father had moved out, when I was very, very young. He's a homeowner. My mother is not. I was raised as a renter with my mom, and I am now being punished again because my father left, and my father is haunting me now because he's a homeowner and I can't use this program. Unfortunately, the way they're writing it, that's the case. Like, they didn't address it any differently. They said these are the rules and this is what we're doing. And so the first generation piece, it only applies to one borrower. But remember, you can't use co-signers with this program. So you can buy with another occupant. You can buy with your best friend, and you and your best friend can buy together as long as you're both going to live in the home. But one of you must meet this definition of a first generation home buyer. So critically important that we understand that piece. Reviewing my notes really quick here to see if there's anything else I want to make sure. They talked a lot about Los Angeles as an example. They said, historically, down payment assistance programs have been hard pressed to be utilized in areas like Los Angeles. They saw a big uptick in the number of people who subscribed to or utilized the first generation Dream for All program, but nowhere near what matches the population. And so they said, look, the biggest concern people have is median income compared with median home price. They ran a chart. I'm not going to show it to you, but they said, hey, there's a lot of homes that people in LA can afford. Yeah, but where are they? And are they really somewhere like, if you make the median income, do you want to buy the least expensive home in the worst neighborhood? That's the piece they didn't really address. All right, I got more than a few questions. All right, so Jason has a bunch of questions. Jason, let's see here. If your parents owned a home in the past 10 years, will applicants be excluded from the program? Yes, based on what they're saying. Now, this is only one buyer needs to meet this criteria. So let's pretend you're buying by yourself, or let's pretend that you and your co-buyer both have this same situation where your parents owned a home in the last 10 years. Then yeah, you're excluded from the program, is what they're saying. You have to have never owned a home, and your parents have to have not owned a home in the last 10 years. And now Jason says, with the new proposal, will 5% down be all that the applicants can contribute? Yes, that's 100% correct. You can contribute your own closing costs. You said, if so, finding a single family home in the Orange County area is highly unlikely and mortgage payments are going to be too high. That is exactly my concern. That is exactly what the argument is in saying, hey, you want to target this towards first-time home buyers. You want to target this towards the low income. You're saying that there are houses out there for sale, but look, these houses aren't houses people are going to want to live in, and you're exactly in that situation. So they're saying because you have 20% of your own money, they won't let you add it to 20% from the state. They're going to allow 5% of your money, 20% from the state for a total of 25% down, and then you can pay your own closing costs. So I do agree with you. That's going to be very, very challenging. Yeah, you finished out with, it's going to be very high with the current interest rates and house prices. I agree. Last thing Jason said, will the cap on what is contributed? Yes, there's a cap. I believe it's $150,000. I saw that a month or two ago. I didn't see them talk about, they said there was a cap yesterday or Thursday. They didn't define the dollar amount of the cap on Thursday. So it is my recollection that it was $150,000. But so if you bought $1 million home in Orange County, you would, instead of getting $200,000 or 20%, you'd get $150,000 or 15% from the states. That's really how they're defining it. Obviously, the question is, how can you afford to buy $1 million home if you're only at 120% of the area median income and you're only putting 20% or 25% down? So I agree, the math doesn't work very well. Anyway, I want to finish up here really quick, Jason. I really appreciate those questions. If anybody else has questions, feel free to post them into whatever chat you're watching. If you're live, I'll answer them. If you're not live, then I'll address them afterwards. They're going to be doing significant marketing outreach starting in January, and it's really they're pushing it. They're really pushing it to the low income households. They're focused, and again, I'm using their words. They're focused on diverse and underserved communities. Their focus is on Latino and Black households. So that's where they're trying to drive this money. They're going to be doing marketing and outreach in lots of different ways, including what they talked about is out-of-home advertising in Hispanic supermarkets and laundromats in targeted areas. So they're definitely trying to make a dent in the certain demographics. Again, you can agree or disagree. I'm not weighing in either side. I'm just sharing the information. 5% of personal funds. The lottery. Yep, all of that I talked about already. And the last thing really is one of the questions that a lot of people have been asking is when you get pre-registered, how much time are you going to have? What has to happen? So you get pre-registered. That does not mean you get the golden ticket. But if you're selected and you get the ticket, you're going to get what they alluded to as being a 90-day time frame. Okay, so they said what I wrote in my notes. They said their certificate would be good for 90 days. And you'll have that time to lock in a loan. So you don't have to close escrow in that 90 days. You have to find a home and lock in a loan. Now, a question was asked, what happens if they fall out? What happens if they cancel that property and they move to a different property? And they said they're going to work to make sure there's flexibility on that issue. That's a big one because, yeah, you only have 90 days to find a home and to get into escrow. But even if you do a 1031 exchange, which you don't know anything about it, it's if you're selling one rental property and buying another one, the IRS lets you identify multiple properties and you just have to close escrow on one of them. CalHAP is not going to let you identify multiple properties, but what they are agreeing is they are going to have to figure out a way. If you open escrow on this home and I lock you in, and then you get partway through and you find there's a problem with the home inspection and you want to cancel that escrow. And so what now? I've lost my golden ticket because I redeemed it. And it's kind of like those park entries where, hey, once you enter the park, you no exiting and re-returning. Well, yeah, but if I punched my ticket to go in, and now I can't use it again. That's a disincentive for me to cancel if I find something wrong with the home. And so they did say they're going to work to find flexibility in that issue. What exactly that means, I don't know, but I do like the fact that they agree that is something important that they have to work on. So that's pretty much everything. Yep. So the time period is between the issue date of the voucher and the date you lock the loan. So you'll have 90 days to do that. All right, Jason, thank you for thanking me. So I appreciate that. Anybody, guys, I'm wrapping up here. So if you have any questions about anything, please feel free to post them. I'll be updating monthly. Pretty much towards the end of every month, I'm going to do a webinar as we get closer. The key right now is to make sure you're qualified for a conventional loan. Taking a look at what your income level is compared with the income level in the market that you currently live, okay? And where this is gonna help, and I know that a lot of you aren't gonna fit this criteria, where it's gonna help is if you live in a high cost area and you're willing to relocate. And that's where we need to sit down early and have a conversation and say, okay, what is your income? Does that fit into the income limit of the high cost area you're in? Yeah, pretty easy. But where do you want to move to and what's the income limit over there? Because that's going to be the biggest category of people this is going to serve, is people that are willing to move. And I'm not sure that's what the state's plan is, but to Jason's point, if you live in Orange County, you make 120% of the area median income, you can't afford to buy the median house in Orange County, especially with only 25% down payment. And especially if there's a cap on how much money they're going to give you towards the assistance. So really, Jason, in your situation, you might be in great shape because being in Orange County, you're in an underserved market. You're in a market that has 23% of the area of the state's population and nowhere near that many people that want to utilize this program or think that they can. So your chances of getting your name selected in the lottery, Jason, go up significantly compared to somebody that lives in Stockton or Fresno or Sacramento. But your chances of actually successfully buying a home in your community are pretty slim. And you said that in the comments that you shared over the last few minutes. So the question is, are you willing to relocate? Are you willing to move further away? And then if you do, can you keep your same job? Do you have to change jobs and now you're going to make less money and now you don't qualify anyway? All of these things come into play. So here's Jason's comment. The home would have to be less than $500,000 for them to be able to make a monthly payment. And with the income limits where they are, yeah, I mean, yeah, Jason, I agree with you completely. My next live stream. So I do these, the holidays are going to kind of mess us up a little bit. I do them on the last Monday of every month. I think November is fine because that basically is going to be the Monday after Thanksgiving. So I do a Dream for All live stream the last Monday of every single month as we get through and I'm not sure what I'm going to do in December, just because that's going to, again, with the holidays. But as we get through the holidays and we hit January, I'm going to probably speed them up more because we're going to get a lot more information. They've told us they're going to be announcing the guidelines earlier, like January, February. So I'm going to start doing them more often as we're getting closer. But the live streams that I'm doing typically for the Dream for All program are the first Monday, last Monday of every month. I also do another live stream, by the way, that's Monday at 7 p.m. The third Thursday of every month. Again, not going to happen in November. So probably second Thursday in November. I don't know. We'll see what the dates are. Is going to be my How to Buy Masterclass. So 7 p.m., third Thursday of every month. Again, you can check out. You'll see it on my YouTube channel, on my Facebook, wherever you're seeing this at. Anyway, guys, I really, really appreciate it. If there's no other questions, I'm going to get out of here and go spend some time with my family. So I hope everybody has an absolutely wonderful weekend. Happy Halloween. And if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do so. I really appreciate that. Thanks, everybody, and have a great weekend. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.